In the grip of the Cold War, Ford promised Americans a family car powered by its very own nuclear reactor, a 5,000-mile journey on a single atomic power capsule. But beneath the dream lurked a horrifying question. What would really happen if a traffic accident unleashed the energy of an atomic test? The story behind this forgotten machine reveals why some visions should never reach the open road. October 4, 1957. A metal sphere the size of a beach ball slips into orbit above the Earth, transmitting a steady radio beep. Sputnik. Overnight, the world feels smaller, faster, and more dangerous. In the United States, headlines scream about a new era, one where the Soviets have seized the technological high ground. The American response is immediate and all-encompassing. Schools overhaul science classes. Politicians demand bigger missiles, faster jets, and new ways to prove American power. Atomic energy, once the stuff of secret laboratories, becomes a symbol of progress. Newsreels show mushroom clouds rising over the Nevada desert during Operation Hardtack, a series of nuclear tests in 1958 that light up the sky and rattle windows across the Pacific. These blasts are both warning and promise. The atom can destroy, but it can also deliver. President Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace speech echoes across television sets and magazine covers, promising that nuclear power will transform daily life. The United States knows that peaceful power from atomic energy is no dream of the future. The capability, already proved, is here, now, today. Everywhere, the future seems to hum with radioactive possibility. Atomic-powered submarines slip beneath the polar ice. Cities talk about nuclear plants replacing coal. Advertisements show smiling families in the glow of atomic kitchens. The message is clear. The same atom that fuels bombs could soon power homes, ships, even cars. In Detroit, car designers and engineers soak up this fever. The assembly lines that once cranked out V8s now buzz with talk of uranium and steam turbines. Concept sketches pile up, each more fantastical than the last. A world where gasoline is obsolete, where a family might drive coast to coast without ever stopping to refuel. The promise is intoxicating. American know-how, harnessing the atom, outpacing the Soviets, and delivering a future where danger becomes convenience. But beneath the optimism, a current of unease persists. Fallout shelters spring up in suburban basements. Children practice duck-and-cover drills at school. The same energy that promises endless power also whispers of annihilation. Yet for a moment in the late 1950s, the dream of a nuclear-powered world seems within reach, and the line between progress and peril grows thin. Inside Ford's advanced styling studio, the mood was electric. Jim Powers, barely out of college and new to the team, sketched a car that looked like it belonged on the cover of a pulp science fiction magazine. Under the guidance of George Walker, Ford's celebrated design chief, Powers gave form to the company's wildest atomic ambitions. The Nucleon would not just use nuclear power, it would celebrate it, wrapping the most dangerous technology on Earth in fins, chrome, and optimism. The heart of the concept was the power cell, a self-contained nuclear reactor module slotted between the rear wheels. Ford's designers pictured a future where drivers could choose a power cell to match their needs, one for fuel economy, another for high performance. When the uranium inside ran low, there would be no greasy hands or gas fumes. Instead, owners would glide into specialized stations and swap out the entire reactor pod, as easily as changing a battery. Ford's brochures promised up to 5,000 miles between exchanges, a number that dwarfed anything a tank of gasoline could offer. The company's promotional language was bold, describing the Nucleon as an advanced notion of the automotive future. Concept art from the period shows a car with a cab-forward stance, its roof barely higher than the hood of a Thunderbird. The passenger compartment sat far ahead of the reactor, a decision both for visual drama and, as designers would later admit, to put as much distance as possible between people and the atomic core. The Nucleon's proportions, over 16 feet long, but with a wheelbase shorter than a Mini, seemed almost playful, as if the designers were daring the future to catch up. Internal memos from 1958 brim with this sense of possibility. Ford's vice president for styling, George Walker, wrote, "The Nucleon was styled on the assumption that the present bulkiness and weight of nuclear reactors and attendant shielding will someday be reduced. It seems reasonable to suppose that engineers eventually will discover a way to make this weight reduction possible." In the world Ford imagined, gas stations would become nuclear exchange depots, and families could cross the continent without ever stopping for fuel. The Nucleon scale models, one in plaster, another in fiberglass, were paraded before press cameras, their silver paint catching the light, their tail fins hinting at untold speed. For a brief moment, the dream of atomic motoring seemed as real as the steel in Ford's assembly lines. The company's optimism was contagious, and the public, still dazzled by mushroom clouds and atomic submarines, was ready to believe. Ford had taken the fever of the atomic age and distilled it into a single, audacious promise. The future, powered by the atom, was just around the corner. Ford's stylists could sketch a dream, but physics refused to cooperate. The Nucleon reactor may have looked compact in concept art, yet the hard numbers told a different story. Shielding a fission core to keep passengers safe from gamma rays and neutrons would have demanded 20 to 50 tons of lead and water, 10 to 25 times the weight of a typical 1950s car. Even the most optimistic engineers knew there was no way to shrink that mass without breaking the laws of nature. The Nucleon cab forward layout, with the passenger pod perched as far as possible from the rear reactor, was a visual admission of the radiation threat. But no matter how much distance designers added, only thick, heavy shielding could block the invisible danger. L. Dale Thomas, a propulsion expert, put it bluntly: "The problem with an automotive-scale reactor isn't with accommodating the radioactive core, but with handling the energy it releases. A 100 to 200 horsepower reactor would generate enormous heat, far beyond what any car-sized cooling system could safely vent. The steam turbines and radiators needed would dwarf the car itself. Every attempt to solve one problem, radiation, heat, weight, created two more. Adding shielding crushed performance and handling. Reducing mass let radiation leak into the cabin and out onto city streets. The Nucleon promise of a 5,000-mile range was undone by the reality that a safe, mobile reactor simply couldn't be built at car scale. The physics were unyielding. No amount of optimism could turn a 50-ton lead shield into a family sedan. Ford's confidence in atomic motoring collided with the hard realities of the business world. By late 1958, the Nucleon's fate was sealed not by a single dramatic decision, but by a slow, grinding recognition that the dream just didn't add up. The projected cost of a nuclear-powered car soared past $100,000, an impossible figure in an era when a new Ford sedan sold for under $3,000. Ford's boardrooms, already stung by the disastrous launch of the Edsel between 1957 and 1959, had little appetite for another financial gamble. The Edsel's collapse drained resources and left executives wary of anything that smelled like a moonshot. Even if the Nucleon could have rolled off the assembly line, no insurance company was willing to touch it. Actuaries at Lloyd's of London and their American counterparts studied the risks of mobile reactors and quietly declined. The idea of tens of thousands of uranium-fueled cars sharing highways with station wagons and city buses was a liability nightmare. Without insurance, no dealer could sell, no bank could finance, and no family could drive a Nucleon. Regulatory hurdles loomed just as large. The regulatory challenges faced the Atomic Energy Commission, responsible for civilian nuclear safety, which had no framework for licensing a reactor on wheels. Every mile driven would have required oversight fit for a power plant. Even Ford's most optimistic planners saw the writing on the wall. The Nucleon would never pass out of the styling studio and into the hands of the public. By the end of 1958, the project was quietly shelved. The Nucleon's modular reactor swap stations, once imagined as the filling stations of tomorrow, exist today only as a faint echo in the rise of electric vehicle battery swaps. The vision of a nuclear-powered car died in the boardroom, undone by practicalities that no amount of optimism could overcome. Today, as we chase new energy frontiers, nuclear-powered dreams remain locked behind regulatory barriers and public safety concerns. The promise of limitless power collides with the reality of risk. Progress demands vision, but it demands caution too. Our future still depends on knowing the difference. Share your thoughts below.